Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm Sam Joseph. Unfortunately, my co-host Joe is unwell at the moment, and this show goes out to him. We're really sorry. He really wanted to be here, but he couldn't. But we're very excited because Wes Defoe, up-and-coming comedian, is here joining us today on Comedians on Technology, People, and Drugs. Wes, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And yeah, honor for us to have you on the show. How is the comedy going? I think you've had a few gigs this week already, haven't you?
Yes. So I've done about 2 gigs this week. I did Covent Garden comedy Cellar. And that was pretty cool. And then I emceed Groovie Comedy on the Friday, and yeah, so that was all right as well. Yeah, and then the rest of the week was for fun and work.
Good stuff. Well, it's all about having fun. Absolutely. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And how was the emceeing? Did you find that you prefer emceeing, or you prefer being doing the normal regular spots?
With the emceeing, like I want to do it more and more, because obviously, first of all, you get more stage time, so that's a great way to kind of like get new material in there and see if it works. Also, it's something where it's, I guess, the best way to work on your crowd work as well, isn't it? And so I feel like crowd work is one of the things where I feel like I've got the potential to get good at it, but I need to expose myself to it, and you can't really do that when you're doing like a 5-minute material set that much, unless you're going to kind of be loose at the beginning, and then you sacrifice some materials down the line. So yeah, I really do like MC. I would like to continue doing that, as I go forward. But yeah, it should be cool.
Good stuff. Yeah. So I mean, it's, I guess, the first question from our side is I'm asking Joe's regular questions, but yeah, like getting into comedy, how have you found that, and what advice would you have for other people who are trying to get started?
Okay, so how I found getting into comedy would be, so first of all, I like the energy around the community. So with like the industry, or like the entertainment industry, like you get a kind of feel that there's a lot of like, oh, it's a competition type of thing. Like people are kind of, there's like a lot of ego based, shoulder shrugging and all that kind of stuff, but what I found is most people in the comedy circuit are just lovely, they're open and welcoming, I found kind of getting into the actual art of itself has been easier than I initially thought when I first had the idea to get into comedy, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think, yeah, just the kind of having the community around and the support by other people. Oh, we want to come and do this place over there, or do you want to be a bringer, or I'll be your bringer, stuff like that. It's really kind of like, it's taken away some of the unneeded tension that would otherwise make it a lot more difficult,
Sure.
And what was the other question?
Well, the follow-up question was then, what advice would you have, like, given that that's how you found it, what advice would you have for other people trying to get started?
I think the main advice that I would have for anyone trying to get started would be write like a lot beforehand. I would say try and write jokes as much as possible and as often as possible, like before kind of putting something together. And because that's what I did. I think I wrote jokes for about a year.
Oh, really?
Before I even like moved into London, So it was the situation where it's like, that's what I was doing. But then I also found that when you watch comedians and you watch like a polished special, you can't learn as much from a polished special as you can from an open mic. So
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
say go to open mics and go to like amateur nights or lower level, and you can learn more. And then obviously once you progress as a comedian, you kind of write your own stuff, then you can, now I'm at the stage now where I can actually learn a little bit more from those polished specials. And you know, yeah, so I'd say have a look, go to live comedy is you know yeah.
Absolutely, great answer. That's really interesting to hear that you were writing for like a kind of a year in advance. Was that when you started doing that? Was that you were thinking, oh, I'm thinking of funny things and I'm going to write them down, or were you thinking, I want to get up there on stage and so I'm kind of preparing material? What was your mindset as you did that kind of year's prep, so to speak?
Yeah, it was I can't really pinpoint the exact moment when I thought, oh, I'm gonna go into to do stand-up. But I think what happened was I at some point I had the idea like, oh, I'm gonna try and get on stage, like, and just do a thing. And I think I was like on YouTube, like, oh, like top tips on stand-up comedy. And I saw a video about like joke writing, and then kind of a little bit, I learned a little bit of like the technical side of it. But at that time, what I was doing, I was just kind of thinking of like an observational like idea, like, oh, that's like, how come this and that, whatever. But it was, at the time, it was very like ethereal, and it was very like abstract stuff. And it was one of those things where it was kind of interesting but not funny, you know. So I've been writing a lot of that sort of stuff down. Yeah, it was just kind of, I was trying to work the muscle basically. I didn't expect to kind of be doing stand-up for this long, because I basically I had two goals.
Right.
I'm not sure if I told you this before, but I had two goals with stand-up comedy. So I wanted to maybe do it, I don't know, a handful of times.
Oh, okay.
I wanted it, one of them, like, I wanted it to go well.
Right.
I wanted that experience.
Yes.
And then I wanted it to go horribly wrong as well.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay.
I wanted the experience of completely bombing, and every joke that I say is like met with silence, like, and you know, it's really awkward, and you know, because I felt like stand-up comedy was like an avenue for me to kind of expose myself to, I guess, the highs and the lows of life.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, when you're doing comedy, like stand-up, you're becoming vulnerable, because you're trying to make someone laugh. You're offering them something, and at the expense of your vulnerability. And then it's the audience's decision, based on whether you're funny or not, to make that worthwhile. And if that doesn't happen, then you're literally just vulnerable, and it's just, it's the worst feeling. I guess that's why there's the people that are scared of public speaking more than death itself, right?
Yeah.
So then so I was thinking, oh, if I was able to go through that experience, it's gonna make me more resilient. Like, people can't really say anything to me, and it won't affect me anymore, you know. And that sort of thing. So yeah, that was one of the big kind of drives towards getting into stand-up, because it was like, I felt like I was a little bit funny, you know, with my friends and stuff like that, but you know, that would kind of take it up to the next level, and then plus do all those other things that we spoke about already.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really amazing insight. You know, I guess so was it like kind of almost a bit like a bucket list kind of thing, of that you'd seen the polished comedy, you'd maybe seen some not so polished comedy, and you know, you were aware of, okay, this is a thing that some people do, and like, wow. And then, but you were like, and a bit like jumping out of a plane, you were like, oh, I want to experience all of that, you know, just as a kind of vicarious thing. And now you've got hooked. Is that what's happened?
Yeah. Now I'm addicted, mate. I'm like, oh, give me a gig. Oh, do you want to? Oh, got any gigs? Oh, yeah. I can't actually stop now. So it's yeah, I love it. It's amazing.
You know, I am in the same position. I mean, I personally, I don't know if I even wanted to do a gig, but I certainly didn't. I wasn't thinking I want to die, although I think it's a very powerful and valuable experience that we can talk about later on, maybe. But yeah, I am also finding myself to be very addicted. It's a dangerous thing, isn't it?
No one tells you. No one tells you. That's what happens. Like, yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, which is another. I'm scribbling down all these, different topics so we can sort of like. Ooh, I mean, I just wanted to hit on a few different things that you've said there. I mean, I also there are so many lovely people on the circuit, and there is this sort of camaraderie. Is it that we're doing it like you say? I hadn't thought about that. The vulnerability. We're all like putting ourselves out there, putting ourselves on the stage, and like whatever anybody does, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's maybe between us a recognition is everybody's getting up there and they're putting themselves out there, and as a result, there's a shared something that we've then got that then means that you connect with people in a way that you don't if you meet them in other walks of life. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, there's something about the way that what brings someone to do comedy or be a comedian or whatever that is different to anything else. I guess it's I'm guessing it's kind of like a perspective thing, or your some sort of courage coming from one place or another place, or if even if it's coming from a place of I want a little bit of validation, but you still have to go through all of those kind of things to get there and be vulnerable. So I just think like anyone who does stand-up comedy is we're different in some way, in some weird way that connects us. And and
I think it's, I mean, part of it is open to everyone as well. I think. Like it's and once you've done it, there's absolutely there's a connection and a shared something, but it's obviously, and for many people it is extremely daunting. But I think there is some, at least at our level, there's a democratic thing of like anybody can stand up and have a go, and then they will be in the club.
It's not many barriers between not being one and being one.
The barriers seem to be internally imposed, aren't they? Yeah, indeed. I also want to ask you about you mentioned that the writing process. I mean, I think the whole thing about how one comes up with material is, I mean, that's part of the thing that I am just loving. Like just even when I'm not gigging, I can be spending time coming up with material. And maybe it's the same for you before or after you were on start again up on the stage. But I'm just wondering, so the writing process, do you like block out chunks of time where you spend like typing on a laptop, or are you just occasionally thinking and typing on your phone? Well, how does it work for you, that writing process?
I will my writing process is basically it happens to me. So an idea would come into my head and something would maybe I see a car driving by,
right,
and my brain will just kind of go off on, like, I'll just start thinking, cars, and then the next thing, and whatever it is, and then something will come forward, and I'll be like, no. And usually I'd say it out loud to someone I'm with, and then like maybe if they chuckle or something like that, then I'm like, okay, that's cool. If no one's there, then I'll just write it down if I think it's worth. So I go on my phone notes, and then just I type not a joke at the top, and then like then just write as much as I can before I forget it, because I've forgot so many good jokes. But and then so when I'm searching for a joke to kind of build up, because it will be the skeleton of it. It would just be, this is the point of it, and then maybe this is said and that's it. But then when I've got some free time, I'll be like, all right, let me work on a joke or something like that, and then I'll search on my notes joke, and then I've got all of the unwritten stuff, and then maybe I'll Oh, another technique that I would use is if I've got the joke, like the kind of skeleton of the joke,
Yes.
I will record myself just talking about it, and
Right.
I feel like my funniness comes more naturally when I'm speaking rather than me typing it out. It's just more natural, and I can kind of riff, and I can, you know, get more from that. So I'll record myself talking. I've even got like I bought like a dictaphone.
There's a lot of them around these days, aren't there?
A lot, yeah. It's the same barrier as being a comedian, I guess. But yeah, a dictaphone, in case, like, you know, then my phone's out there. It's just in the front of my bag at all times.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's like you've got a little backup there, but also it's easier to access quickly, and then it's just click instead of unlock my phone and all of that extra stuff. Sometimes it will be needed on a quick one, but yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, well, thanks for sharing all of that. That's really interesting. And it sounds like, but you work on it as it comes to you. You're not like blocking out, okay, every day between 10 and 11 I will be doing my joke writing stuff, or it's like you know, comes to you and so on, and you sort of let it evolve naturally and organically by the sound of it.
Yeah. What about you?
It's very similar in some respects. I have like note app on the phone. I have it synced with like Google Docs, and I just seem to be continually having little ideas. I mean, I've also challenged myself to write 3 one-liners every day and post them on Twitter. So I'm basically kind of the same thing for you, like see a car. I mean, I tend to be listening to other people's modes of speech. Like, so someone might say something like, oh, you know, like he blocked me, or whatever phrase it happens to be. And as soon as I hear like a little phrase that's got a little poetry in it, these days I'm like, all right, I'll write that down immediately. And then if I don't have a little extension to it, then I'll have what I maybe look at it later in the day. And so I'm basically each day I'm trying to take little notes that will allow me at the end of the day. And I have at the end of every day, once the kids have gone to bed, you know, I spend half an hour, and I, you know, write up those one-liners, and then I also have like a number of sort of 5-minute sets that I'm working on in parallel, and I'll probably choose one of those, and I'll do the same. I record. I've got a proper microphone downstairs with a stand, and plugs into my iPhone, and so basically I will do a 5-minute set to the wall at the lawn, and record it, and then play it back to myself, because I think exactly what you're touching on there. One, when you're just chatting, the thing, you find little like lines and angles, and you have ideas, and then I think listening back to yourself, I find you then like kind of think, oh, that sounds a bit unnatural, that sounds better. And then recently it's just, well, I think the thing is, if I'm repeating that enough, and obviously I'm gigging as well and so on, then like you find like you may have thought, oh, I got this thing and it's got like 12 jokes in it, but then as you repeat, even without exerting yourself towards it, just the fact that you're listening to yourself saying it each day, you wake up in the morning, or just you're doing something else and you're like, oh yeah, there could be do you know what I mean? Like extra ideas start to come, and then the set evolves over time. It's it's fascinating, isn't it?
It is, something else will come. Like I could have been doing like I've had the joke where I'm saying that I'm from Essex. That was one of my first ever jokes, right? I think that was the first joke that I did on stage.
Right.
But that over time has evolved, and it's like it's changed because of time, or because I thought of something funnier to put in there, or there may be a callback that I can do later on, which would mean I'd need to express myself through that idea a bit differently, or you know, and so there's so many versions of that joke now, and then it can be changed, and it could be altered based on whether it's a 5-minute, 10-minute, or whether it's, you know, something else. But like you said, you listen back, and even when you're on stage, like I know that you record, you record on stage. That's a massive one as well, because when I would record and I would listen back to my set, not only do you get your own, the way you said it just there, which could be different to how you wrote it in the beginning, and you're like, it could be a situation where it's like, oh, that the way, if I say it exactly like that, that works better because it just it's cleaner, you know. But also you get the audience's response to that. And it's so weird, like when you're on stage, it's kind of, I don't know if you're the same, there's an element of delusion when you're on stage.
Did you say delusion?
Of delusion, yeah, regarding the audience's feedback. It's not to say that oh, I thought they were laughing and they weren't, but sometimes I'm thinking I've got like an A laugh or a B laugh or a C laugh, but it was actually different, you know. It was actually another letter, you know. So
well, just for the listeners, I was going to explain there that they may not be familiar with the A, B, and C. A being
go ahead, yes.
the best, really, everybody in the room is laughing. B, some people maybe, B, and then C, like one person, is a comment. Absolutely, but please do go on,
So that was good that you explained that. Sorry about that. But yeah, you listen back to the recording and you'd be like, oh, actually, I thought that bombed, but that actually quite a few people laughed at that, and maybe that one was, I thought it bombed, but actually it took a while for it to reach to make sense to them. So, but then I kind of messed it up because I thought it bombed, and then I ruined the flow, you know. So you can, once you do that, you can like trust jokes more, or you can trust the process of, you can understand the characteristics of different jokes and how that they present themselves to the audience. So
totally, fantastic. And so I think we've got lots of fantastic advice for people getting started and little tips and tricks, which I think, talking as we are about the material, that leads me on to another of Joe's questions that he often asks, which is about the limits of comedy and whether it should be censored. So we've both talked about how we've just got ideas going on all the time, we're playing and we're exploring and so on. I think we've both done material that's I think comedians we sometimes cross over a line, maybe. I don't know. How are you feeling about what, like limits? Are they there to be exceeded? How do you feel about all of that?
Oh, I'm very idealistic on my opinion with this one. Here's my thing. I think if your intention is to make people laugh, I think that's what's important, and I think that's what should be considered with comedy in general. If you make, I feel like personally, you can joke about anything. If it's a good joke, then it will work. And depending, it doesn't matter on the subject matter. If it's a good joke, it'll work. But a lot of the times, in order to get a joke that's good, that's at that level, you need to it needs to be a bit shit, you know.
What you mean, like it needs to start out?
It needs to start out, because sometimes these concepts that are quite difficult to talk about start off in a kind of a rough way, and it's kind of hard to articulate through your point, right? So you may have a few goes at it, you know. But I think when you've got a situation where the joke isn't where it needs to be, but you know that there is funny in there, I think that a lot of the time that's where a lot of the tension is, because you've got a situation where it's like, that just wasn't funny, but it's like, not yet, but I know that there's something there, and then maybe it's just never going to be funny, but it's not the point where it's like you're hating on anyone, you're trying to incite violence or incite hatred on anyone or anything like that. Obviously, I'm sure like there are some people, but I don't know why they would choose stand-up comedy to progress their political their agendas in that way. But but I don't think anything really should be censored regarding stand-up comedy at all. Good.
I mean, I think and I think Joe and myself are probably both on a similar position there. Although, I mean, I do find myself like, as I'm spending more and more time in gigs, as we both are. I was let me run this particular situation by you that I was in the other week. So I was at a gig, and everyone had great fun, and there was a sort of a relatively not huge superstar, but like sort of a special headliner there, and they were doing like a longer set, as there was as they sometimes do, and this person was, I mean, I've seen people do longer sets and be very, very not funny, and that's, as we talked about, it's important to have safe spaces in which to be not funny in order to develop material. That's fine.
Yeah.
This person was reasonably funny,
Mm.
and so now they told a joke that, without getting the details, I felt was kind of punching down a bit, and there was a person sitting next to me who was in that category of people who was, I think, being sort of punched down in that joke, who after that joke got up and left. And I was kind of, it could have been just that they needed to go to the bathroom. I mean, then they didn't come back. This was like halfway through the person's set, and I just sort of kind of felt like, I certainly don't want to be going around like saying that there should be somebody kind of coming around and saying, no, you can't say that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, it's sort of, there's something about it that makes me feel slightly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Another thing is like, in my ideal version of myself, I would be of sufficient backbone that I might, in some context, be able to say to the comedian who was making that joke, like something about that, hopefully like not in a critical way, but in a constructive way. But I'm we're new. It's like there's all these like big important people, and I was kind of like, I kind of bumped into the person, and I was like, great set, bye. Because I'm a worm. I'm a cowardly worm. But do you know what I mean? I don't know if you've had any experiences like that, or if that gives you a feeling about, is there, should we be self-policing, or I don't know, what do you reckon?
That's an interesting one. I think, because the thing is, like, when you're doing stand-up, I guess most people want everyone to have a great time. We want everyone to laugh, and sometimes sometimes you make fun of someone, for example, on stage, and hopefully that person is a good sport, and it's kind of, it's that sort of thing. But there are, when you say about like punching down, I think that there is something to that, in terms of, I guess, making, kind of coming from a higher place, and then kind of crushing people who are already on a lower level, so in some sort of way, or who are being having a difficult time, or whatever it is like that. But I don't know. I think when it comes to punching down, I think I think that there are certain ways in which you can punch down. For example, like in an ironic way, for example, you can be punching down, like I know Ricky Gervais often kind of does a kind of thing where he's like, all you guys are poor, or you're all scum, or something like that. But you know that that's not what he actually believes, for example. Or like Dave Chappelle would say, like, oh, I'm famous now, I'm rich. I can't get stopped by the police anymore, for example.
Right.
And that would be sometimes like, sometimes people might not like that kind of thing, because it's like, oh, I'm saying I'm above all of you guys, But if you're doing a joke that's with the intention of, I don't know, maybe like attacking a certain demographic, then without a good reason, I don't see any reason why someone would do that, if that makes sense. In a serious way, if that makes sense. So right, guys. Like, it's actually no, it's like, it's kind of like, I feel like the only way it would be acceptable is if it's a situation where everyone knows that what you're saying is wrong.
Right.
And that's why it's funny, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. But self-censoring does need to happen but not in the way that I think is kind of, I'm seeing a trend of now, if that makes sense.
Oh, really?
So I think that self-censoring should be under that person's terms. So for example, like I'll tell you a quick story. Basically, this is one of the times where I was the bad guy, seen as the bad guy.
Okay.
So I was at a comedy club. I won't say who it is, but I did a joke about me having a bad gaydar. And
Yeah,
me,
right.
right. You might have heard it. Yeah, I take you through the fact that I can't. It's very hard for me to tell, and it's got me in a bit of an uncomfortable situation before where
Right.
a gay man has approached me, but I didn't realize he was gay until it was too late. He's already bought me 2 drinks, and now I'm like, and then I kind of just escalate the situation. It's just kind of exaggeration, but it comes from a place of truth.
Yes.
I did that at this gig, and it was bombing. You know, it was bombing, and at the end, they started to clap, but then it was a situation where the guy was kind of just not having any of it, and the MC was like, he was calling me transphobic, homophobic on stage in front of everyone, and yeah, that was the experience I had. But I say that to say this: I think if I'm now, when I look at that joke, I am aware that some people may not understand that it was a self-deprecation joke, for example.
Right.
And where you have the self-censoring, in my view, is literally the editing of the joke, like making it so it's like, okay, oh, this really gets people uncomfortable in this bit. How can I say it so it's not meant in that way? So you can really, so that they can really understand where I'm coming from or who I am. But then, but I don't think you should stop yourself from talking about any issue. But it's just it's how you present it, where you're coming from, and another thing is how, who they think you are does have a lot to play. You know, like you can talk about gay people kind of in a derogatory way if you are gay,
right,
with no resistance, no problem, right?
There's a sort of right that one earns by being, if you're part of a certain demographic.
Yes. You know, so that's kind of one of the big ones that's given. But I also think you should be able to talk about gay people or the LGBT community. Of course, there's going to be less leeway, you know.
Sure.
But I feel like there shouldn't be a thing where you can't discuss that topic that's on the list. You know, there seems to be a list, and there's lots of things on the list. You know.
Everybody draws the line in different places. I mean,
Think
of an analogy, it's sort of like we're playing with explosives. You know, is that there are some of these. You know, some of the joke material is explosive stuff that people have very strong feelings about. And if you know, I mean, and particularly, I think when one is starting out, you can start. But this is the funny thing is, like, presumably when they're training explosive experts, they don't let them play with really volatile, extremely dangerous things immediately. They say, no, that'll be after a couple of years. Start with this toy thing that will just go pop. And but the funny thing is, in comedy, there's no, there's nobody saying, no, you can't play with that material that could get you very badly burnt. So it's tricky, isn't it? It's interesting.
The thing about it is, even though that's a really good analogy, to be honest, because it can blow up in your face, you know. And it's one of those things where if you are working with real explosives and it blows up in your face, you don't get a chance to be like, okay, how can I do that better? You know? But the difference is, I mean, I think the main thing to understand, if you kind of, because there's some people that find dark comedy funny, you know, and that's kind of their inspiration, or you know, that they kind of go into. So that's a very big trap, I think, for a lot of people who like that kind of stuff, because instead of working on the basics, they're trying to emulate the energy, you know. And so the main thing that I'd say is, if you are going to be doing that sort of material, one, recognize that it is explosive material, and two, listen to the audience and make sure you record your set, because then you will need to make changes quickly, and you'll need to be able to adapt. You can't keep going on stage and doing the exact same stuff time and time again. That's going to have you know, cause issues, you know. But yeah.
Good stuff. Oh well, you know, really appreciate you sharing all the stuff. I think we're getting some good stuff there. I know if Joe was here, he would be leading on to his next question. We're talking about dangerous substances, or potentially very powerful substances. You know, Joe is a big psychedelics advocate. He's really keen on their potential value for, you know, healing traumatic brain injury, all sorts of things. You know, it's I think they're talking about things that people are allowed and not allowed to do. It's the case that you know, there are very strong restrictions on the use of certain substances in medical research because of, you know, the whole drug situation and so on, which is Joe's he's a big advocate for, you know, legalizing the research, because there's, you know, promising things to suggest that, you know, brain injury and people recovering from PTSD and so on, that these are important potential life transforming drugs that should be available. But he also, Joe makes a connection between comedy and the sort of psychedelic experience about this. You know, it's in the moment. There's something almost psychedelic about the comedy show, about the process of generating material and so on. Now and of course, as we always say on the show, you know, one should be very careful with these powerful substances, and, you know, they're not to be taken lightly. And of course, we don't ask anybody to reveal anything that they've done with these. You know, there's a lot of taboo around these substances. But yeah, I mean, I guess from your perspective, is there any, you know, how does comedy overlap, if at all, in your mind, with psychedelics and the drug culture and so on? Is that a thing, or is that kind of not part of the way you see comedy?
Yeah, I think I've never really thought about comedy and psychedelics kind of being similar, but until it was, because I've never been exposed to that idea. So, but I would say that there are times in comedy that are very psychedelic like, you know. But I think there are moments in comedy, in stand-up, where you can feel very psychedelic. I think one of the main ones is when you have a bomb, like a real bombing moment, and it's like, whoa, things are kind of zooming in and out. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is life's happening right now. But yeah, the show, I guess with psychedelics, often it's related to kind of having a conversation, whether it's kind of mushrooms, the mushrooms speaking to you, you having a conversation back and forth with the mushrooms, you realizing that, you know, to the higher levels, that everyone is connected, you know, everyone is same, you know, that those sorts of things. I think comedy can bring that out in those same kind of values. It's done well, you know, like we come together and we have a laugh. Right. We point out one thing in the world, you point out another thing in the world, and, you know, this aspect may be different, but at the same time, you know, based on the whole concept is kind of saying, like, listen, we're all here together and we're all living this life. It's crazy life, but, you know, we should be united, you know. Yeah, that's
man, that's I mean, seriously, man, that's mind-blowing. I mean, and no joke. I mean, like, you saying that, like, I was there introducing the concept of, like, you know, comedy being psychedelic, which is Joe's concept, to be fair. And I sort of I kind of like, oh yeah, I see. But the way that you've just said it there, that it's about, and of course comedy is so much about finding connections that are not otherwise that is yeah, that's a really interesting insight. I'm slightly blown away. You'll give me, I just pause myself and reset. Like, yeah, man, that's deep. I mean, it makes me want to. It's particularly interesting that you say that the bomb. Well, so there's this phrase, and the listeners may or may not be familiar with the, you know, the common terms, when a joke really does not go well, and then you're met with sort of silence and this sort of like perhaps confused embarrassment on the part of the audience, who they're starting to feel bad on behalf of you, or just upset that you got up on stage, or who knows what they're going through their minds, which we call bombing or dying, and so on, which is extremely powerful force. I find it, it's not the best experience, it's one that one tries to avoid. At the same time, when it does happen, I have found it to be extremely powerfully creative. It unleashes sets of energies in me the following day that I'm like doing extra writing, and stuff comes out that wouldn't have come out before. But the thing for me, when it's happening, for me, I very much feel like I'm going through this fight or flight response. Like my mouth goes dry, and I'm like kind of. But the thing that you were saying there about the kind of I didn't, like I said, I think I understood what you were saying, but it didn't quite match my experience of the bombing. Can you elaborate on that in the moment experience that you were saying you have in that session?
Yeah, I would definitely say fight or flight is a big part of it. Obviously you get like a little bit of an adrenaline rush.
Right.
Get a bit blank, but I think when I'm saying about kind of like a zoom in, zoom out type of thing, it's kind of how would I explain it? So let's say I'll do a da 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 da, and then silence, and then it will be you've got lots of, how it links to the psychedelic thing. I think you've got lots of different thoughts coming at one after the other. Oh, should I do this? Oh, was it that? Did I do this? Oh, that person is looking at me. Da, 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 da. That's kind of reminds me of that kind of high level thinking type of thing. You've got lots of different thoughts going on around, but at the same time, I get this kind of almost. Is it Alfred Hitchcock who did it, or was it who was it? Spike Lee. I think it might have been Spike Lee, where you've got the zoom in, but then the camera is moving backwards at the same time, so it gives the face.
Okay.
It might have been, or maybe it was Kubrick. I don't know. I'm so bad. But,
I think
it's kind of got that. Yeah, I can't really explain it in words, but it kind of that visual kind of thing. It kind of reminds me a little bit of kind of like a.
That's interesting.
You kind of get like a drug type feeling, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And I think the thing for me is, I think the funny thing, like both in the bombing and also when the jokes are going well, for me though, I'm always like moving on so fast. And even like after a show on the come down, I've had this sort of like reminder to myself on a few occasions. It's like, just sort of stop and feel the feelings. Like I think
be present.
Yeah, to be present. I think I'm so like galloping along.
Yeah.
That it's almost like I haven't got time to experience the thing that the aspect that you were describing, because I'm so busy. I'm scared. Run away.
Yeah.
But
I think I really like the energy that you give on stage, and it is kind of like you're like a roller coaster. You're going forward, and you're like, oh, this, that. You're doing your karate kick over here, and I'm like, whoa, and then like different things, and then sometimes like one person will laugh at a little tiny bit that you put in that is like it's kind of like an Easter egg that you left in there, and you're like, hey, you recognize it. You're in it. Do you know what I mean? But you're in it, but you're just going forward. And I think what that can do is, I think that can give the audience almost like a psychedelic kind of feeling. I feel like there are sort of like psychedelic type comedians, and I believe you are in that category, because you give an experience, and no two are the same, it's really nice. Whereas I feel like with me, I think I would love to be in that category, but I think I'm more in that I'm experiencing the psychedelic, maybe like the flip side of it.
Right.
So I feel like maybe my stuff is more, I'm more in the moment than you would be. Obviously I'm not in your head, but based on what we were saying, I think that may be two ways of looking at performing and your experience in there.
It's a good analysis. I feel like you've got more courage than me on stage. I think that you've done more, like I think you're willing to take more risks, and then I did
music beforehand, so I'm kind of used to kind of being on the stage and having that feeling of I'm here, I'm looking in this direction, and everyone else is looking in this direction. You know, so I'm kind of used to that. But when it comes to comedy, it's something different than, you know, playing guitar, singing. Because if you're doing stand-up comedy and everyone else is talking, you failed. Whereas if like or if you're playing guitar and a few people are talking, and then you finish the guitar and everyone claps, you've won. You've succeeded. Whereas there's so much more that's expected from the audience. That's why, again, it is a communication. It's a conversation that you're having. It's like, oh, I'm saying this, then you are responding. It's a call and response, isn't it? But just wanted to say as well, the bombing aspect is, I didn't realize how important it was to the process. It's equally, I would say, it's equally important to the writing process than getting the response of a laugh, or even writing the joke as a whole, because it will teach you so much in that one bomb, that it's like every bomb is a lesson, man. Like you'll be like, oh, either that joke isn't funny, then obviously you can go deeper into it. Maybe the delivery isn't there. Maybe I should have put more energy into it. Maybe this is the wrong crowd. You know, all these different things. Like, okay, what happened? Or it was just like, oh, they didn't hear me. But it didn't. You know, all of these different things that just you can become every time you bomb, you become a better comedian. Like, and the only thing is, you have to listen to that. You can't just bomb and then just be like, oh, and then just do the same thing. You have to kind of go into why that did not work, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, bombing is cool. Wisdom, yeah.
Fantastic stuff. I'm going to push on to some. You know, I'm having so much fun just talking about comedy with you, but I'm going to push on to some of the other questions. But
Let's go.
I was going to talk about on moving on to the technology. We've just been talking about, like, you know, the human connection and all of these things, and also Joe, I think, you know, he's really keen on the that sort of connection and the psychedelic side as an antidote to technology. You know, maybe too much technology in the world. We were talking about TikTok before the show and so on. Are you, you know, how do you feel about all of the technology there? Is it getting in the way of doing the comedy? Is it supporting it? Is it a new angle? How do you feel about it all?
Oh, that's interesting. So I think with comedy, technology gives me a way of kind of reaching more people. And whether it's TikTok, I can kind of you know, do a little skit or say something that I think is on my mind or something like that, and I can post that, and then maybe 6 people will see it, maybe 6 million people will see it, you know. So that's on that side. On Instagram, I've got like the main people in my, you know, hub, or families, friends and stuff like that. And then if I'm doing something, that's like a way, that's the main avenue that I would kind of go down to update people, or, you know, or again, do the same thing. So the different platforms can have different uses. And I think as far as comedy and technology, I think technology so far is helping comedy. I think with like podcasts like this, these are all in the adding to the comedy circle, the comedy sphere, because, you know, I guess it's kind of, I think reach is the main thing. Like if you've got ideas and you've got art that you want the art to reach as many people as possible, to be able to affect as many people as possible. I think technology has done that. Yeah. With comedy, that's what I think. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, well, no, that's a really positive view, and I think I agree. You know, I want to in some ways make better use of technology. I mean, I come from a sort of technology background. I guess just a couple of things to touch on there is, well, but particularly with TikTok, which I kind of almost, and I kind of have over the last 10 years, whatever, sort of almost aggressively not watched videos because of it being a time sink. So, you know, and I also kind of like, I took a break from like social media for like 5 years, as like I sort of abstained you know, because I was just feeling kind of sort of creeped out about, you know, the sort of the Facebook stuff and all this, that, and the other. And then as a comedian, you know, basically you've got to use it. Like all of the gig information is on the Facebook and this, that, and the other, and you know, all the comedians on Instagram and so on. So I've got back into it, and I feel like I'm sort of addictively checking, you know, how many likes have I got on, I put my thing, who's looked at the stuff or what have you, in a way that I kind of rule with myself. I try and say, like, okay, I'm going to write a joke before I allow myself to look at social media today. But so it's kind of like I'm in a weird, you know, there's also, you can like, it's great to see what people are doing, but you can start to feel jealous about, oh, this person's doing this thing and my thing's not going quite so well, and that's inside a little different, you know. So I'm kind of, I get very confused about it all. But to sort of bring us to a particular question about the TikTok, when I first started, and I've got videos of pretty much all of my, you know, sets that I've done, but when I first started and I only had one, I was kind of, I could have like shared that on YouTube or what have you at the time, but I was kind of like, oh, maybe this is going to be the only material I ever write, you know, and I'm going to need to it's like safe, and like I can only, and I was like, oh, I want feedback, so I'm only going to share it with people who are going to like commit to give me a, like, you know, like if they watch it without me, I record your laughs, I want to know when the laughs just, so the funny thing is though, is I found actually that I generate huge quality. I generate huge amounts of material, and I'm now onto like my like 15th 5-minute set. Like I, you know, nuts. I mean, the quality goes up and down, but still, there's no shortage of ideas. And I'm sort of now like, oh, should I be going back to the earlier stuff and posting it up? Should I be taking out little chunks of it? I am going to questions taking a while, but what I know is, so I was looking at your stuff, is that you've sort of like recorded just sort of, I think, stuff, you know, in the moment, right? You're making up stuff specifically for the TikTok audience, and you're getting it out there. I'm seeing you're getting quite a lot of views on it. And then I'm seeing other comedians are using TikTok, and they're taking like, you know, 30 seconds from a good joke from their set, and they're doing that. Are you doing that as well? Is that kind of, are you thinking particularly about how you want to present yourself to TikTok?
With TikTok, it's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster, like love and hate relationship, mate. Like with TikTok, what I would do initially, because since I was very young, I would make just like funny videos, you know, just little quick funny videos, and put them on Instagram and stuff like that. So I was always kind of in that kind of space, but obviously I went through college and work and that sort of thing. So that kind of went away because I was just focusing on trying to be an adult. But then I kind of came back to it during lockdown.
Right.
And I was just like building up that muscle again of like, oh, it's doing a little skit back and forth thing. And I'd have the TikTok audience as a view, but kind of with my original way I was doing things back then as the foundation, if that makes sense. So kind of my style of funny videos that I was doing back then, but then with, you know, the new technology that is available, you know. So, you know, you can have like lip syncing, you can have different things like that. I mean, I've rarely done a lip sync one, but yeah. And what I would find is mainly it evolved into the process of having a concept where, for example, I like to make fun of a certain type of person or certain type of job description or something like that. So one of them would be, I think one of the most popular ones is making fun of Black comedians.
I was watching it earlier today. Yes.
Yeah, Black American comedians. So I set up the camera, and I didn't record within TikTok. I recorded out on my normal phone, right?
Right.
And then I just was like, okay, let me, what's a Black comedian? And then for probably about 20 minutes, I was just, by the end of it, I was sweating. I was just riffing, everything coming out. And then I'll cut it, and then it ended up being like a 8.5 minute video. And then from there, you've got to cut it in minutes, you know?
Right.
I think now you can get away with like 10 minutes even now, but at that time, it was like minute long. And then now I've got like eight videos of content, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was one of the ones that I thought, oh, that's a quite a successful way of kind of doing that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my stand-up, putting my stand-up on there, that's something I've recently started doing.
Right.
So maybe I've only got like maybe 2 videos on Snapchat, on TikTok, sorry.
Yeah.
With that on there. But I find that putting material that you feel you're going to continue doing is not a good way of posting it. I think the best way is like if you've got something quite topical, like for example, I've got the one about the Queen, the Queen's. That one, I know that there's a certain time frame that's going to be used for. So it's something that I would post because it's to do with the topical times.
Sure.
And I know that if someone comes to a gig like in a month's time, they're not going to be like, oh, I saw that on Instagram, you know, because I'm not going to be doing it in a month's time. It's just going to be in the moment. Yeah. So yeah, I think that it just always, when it comes to like posting anything, for me, oh, sorry, yeah, that's what I was going to say, the love-hate relationship, man. Because it's like, yo, I would spend hours, on a video, and it would be like, and I'd post it, and you know, like where you kind of get the addiction type thing that you're saying, like, oh, how did it do? Like,
Yeah.
There'll be a video that you do for, like, you spend ages on, you post it, and then it's like, not even my girlfriend has liked it, you know. Like,
man, I hear that.
One like from me, and it's like, oh, dude, geez. And then that kind of like takes away the momentum, because it's like, yo, last week I spent 3 minutes just doing a little, and then it was like 100,000 views, whatever it is, you know. And so it's like, wait, what do you want from me, TikTok? What do you want from me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me over there in China? What do you want from me? But yeah, man, TikTok, again, another thing with me, I guess you're kind of similar, is the app is quite powerful, man.
Right.
Where it's like how it uses data, and you know, so I've been kind of having a back and forth with it. Even I've been deleting it, reinstalling it, because it's kind of like, I'm still similar to you, how you feel with the Facebook thing. Like having to go back to Facebook was kind of like because it's like that's the only place that, no, it's not the only place, it's one of the big places that you can get gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, TikTok similar. Like when I was hearing about some of the stuff that has been going on with TikTok, it's like, do I want to contribute to this, or do I want that to myself to be within this, you know? So it's a tough one, because at the same time you want to have your reach out there, you want to be able to get it to as many people as possible. That's a great way of doing it. But yeah, it comes with it's bittersweet, isn't it?
It's tricky. I mean, I've kind of, like, at the moment I'm sort of restricting myself to like posting still images, because I video everything of my gigs, and I'm posting still images on Instagram, partly because I want to, when I have a good gig, I want to like promote the location that I did it at. Nice. And then it's also sort of like just a sort of little history of like some of the things that I did. And I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting what you say about the, you know, the kind of stuff, like stuff that's sort of topical and it's limited in its lifespan. I mean, the professional comedians talk about, you know, if you do something on television, it's kind of burnt and then you can't use it. I mean, of course, we're at a very different stage. I mean, I guess that like, forgive me for putting words in your mouth, or you can of course disagree with the words. I think probably where we both are is we would both like to get to the point. We were both addicted to this comedy thing. We love performing in a room with people laughing. What we would probably both like is to have as many opportunities. We would like to have our own pick and choice of, you know, like if I think to either of us, if someone was saying to us, okay, look, I can get you gigs on nights of your choosing that are convenient for you. You'll be able to do 20 minutes, you know, with 2 other comedians, with an audience who's really pumped up for loads of comedy, and we would be like, Absolutely. That's kind of like, that's where we'd both like to be. And I guess the question for both of us is the extent to which, is there some way in which using social media can get us that? Because for me, like, if I've got a TikTok video and then like a million people like it, I mean, fantastic. But I didn't hear them laughing. I didn't get to be the being in the room with the people and having the energy and the connection is the primary thing. And I guess the question is, I mean, do you see at the moment any way in which your, let's say, the TikTok activity translates into improved opportunities for you, or people are actually turning up to your gigs, or it's just sort of like a side thing where you get the value you're getting from it is just that there's lots of likes on the videos in TikTok?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because the likes thing that you get is nothing compared to the in-person laughter that you get from being on stage. So
right.
yeah, I think the appeal in terms of the social media is I mean, people like, for example, like Mo the comedian.
Oh yeah.
Comedian. He built his own brand himself,
right.
So he's on yeah, he was making funny videos on Instagram. He was kind of doing this, doing that, and he would kind of, people would engage with that, and obviously you would see the numbers going up. But
right,
because the numbers are going up, it's he started to get into that level of influencer or
right,
like comedian influencer. So with that, it's like being at that kind of level online, it has power that you can translate onto
right.
the comedy space, where it's like, okay, now I know that this person is, people are watching this person, and people will go to his gig, or people will go
Right.
to, will buy a ticket, So it's one of those things where it can be used as a tool to do so. But at the moment where I am, I've got an average account, just normal thing. It would just literally just be a way of me trying to reach more people, to potentially, like, I put on a show a few months ago. I did a music and comedy show put in one. So it was like a ticketed event. It was I had a few comedians up there, and I had me performing, and two other guys performing. And I used Instagram and WhatsApp, and
Right.
to be able to spread the word
Right.
about that, or direct people's attention and stuff like that. And it was a big success. It was more of a success than I thought it would be. But it was kind of, that was the avenue that I kind of went down to be able to do that. So that is kind of, and if people kind of remember it, then that's one of the things where it's like, Wes can actually put on a show, and he can do this and do that. He's proven that he can do that. And that's all. That's where I think it comes into it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, like, so you've laid out there, there's two things. I mean, there's you could get to a sort of a level of influence status where people are actually starting coming to the shows off the back of the things. But even before then, if you've got something going on, and you just got something, and people are like, I guess this is the thing about the algorithms that they're using. If a lot of people have liked your funny video previously, then the chance that your future stuff is going to come up in the feeds increases. And if you're promoting your own show, that's so it's sort of, there's a sort of a long-term strategy there of like, keep building the social media online presence. It's going to mean that you're going to have pathways to get get
Absolutely.
up,
I'm
being a forklift.
Get up, get on up. Ooh.
So much, because we got more questions, but we are running out of time, and I'm thinking we're going to have you back on at a future date to go into some of these other questions.
No problem.
It's been so much fun. I'm learning a lot and enjoying myself very much. But so thanks, man. But for our listeners, if they want to, obviously we'll put all of your social media links in the show notes. But where can people see you soon? What should they be looking out for from you?
Oh, I'm doing Hellfire Hellfire comedy on the why can I not see it now? Oh jeez, what's come of me?
Yeah.
On the 14th. So this will be the Tuesday.
Coming Tuesday. I'll see if I can't get this out before then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've got one on
a,
Friday the 17th at Hammersmith as well.
Oh, and Hammersmith again. Fantastic. And do you? I guess, do you have like a list of all of your upcoming gigs? We can maybe get a link to that into the.
Yeah, I'm gonna be posting one pretty soon on Instagram. I'll send you a link to it, or I'll send you the actual poster itself if you like.
Yeah, no, we'll get that all in. So that's Hellfire on Tuesday. Hammersmith, it's Groovie Comedy, is that right? On
Groovie Comedy, yeah. It's like an improv show, quite a new one. I'm not sure how that's gonna go, but we'll figure it out.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Well, there's so much we could be talking about, but I think we'll probably have to draw a line under it there. Yeah, thanks. Just to the listeners, remember, you can support the show by going to patreon.com comedians on, where any level of support will get you access to our Slack community for text chat with us and the guests. High levels will get you access to bonus features, let you discover it all. Slack, we may be moving to a Facebook community soon, but more information on that. Huge thanks to our guest, Wes Defoe.
Thank you so much.
And big shout out to Joe. Get well soon. Hope to see you at the next episode. Thank you very much.
Get well soon, Joe.